Gather around, friends. It's storytelling time for chapter 2 of Believing in Paradise. And I'm out here with my wild cherries I collected the other day, and I'm going to be peeling them as I'm telling you all a story. Isn't that fun? So, I'm on the plane going to Milano, Italy. And granted, I didn't even know where Italy was, or Milano, also known as Milan, before I was invited to go there. And on the plane, I met a guy who was sitting next to me named Barry. And I'm guessing he was in his 30s. He was friendly, definitely had a little playboy vibe about him. But when I landed, my luggage did not show up. And so he helped me deal with all of the logistics I needed to deal with to get my luggage sent to my new apartment, and I was picked up by the agency. And then he gave me his contact info, and I think he knew the people of the agency, possibly. So here I am in Milano, where, the cobblestone streets, castles, cathedrals, cappuccino, the 3 C's. I did not know a word of Italian, and at this point, I can't remember if I even tried to learn any before I went. I suspect I did not, because I was kind of a typical spoiled American, which assumed everyone was going to cater to me. And the only words I knew how to say when I first got there were cappuccino. And so for the first week, that's just about all I got to eat or drink when I went into a cafe, because it's the only thing I knew how to order. And I had previously never drank coffee, so I was literally shaking by the end of the week all the time, and I had to stop drinking it. Then I learned how to say some more things and order some more things. So the agency put me up in an apartment with some other models. I was the youngest, 15. I was going to turn 16 in a month or two. And the other girls were usually like around 19, 20, 21. But it was funny because they were all, sad about leaving their families and missing them. And I was just so glad to be out of there. But I have to say, I absolutely loved my brothers and sisters, and I did miss them. So when I say my family, I guess I meant my parents. So they started taking me around to different, they call them go-sees, where they drive you around. Well, at that point, they drove me around. Later, they made me fend for myself and ride the trains and trams and stuff to get around, buses. But they drove me around to meet all these different clients. I would show them my pictures. I only had a few at the time. And so they sent me to do what they call it a test shoot. So you go to a photographer, you pay them some money, and they take pictures of you that you put in your portfolio. And it's funny how, I was trying to leave this life of feeling like a piece of meat, feeling used, feeling like I was only, had to play this game to be loved of how I looked, and predator men. Well, it was my father that was the main one, but I carried that all with me. So it's exactly what I found when I got there. So my first test shoot that I went on, I had to take a bus or something to some sketchy part of town, or it seemed sketchy to me. It was definitely unknown, and it was in the evening. And the photographer, the photographer wanted me to take off my top for the pictures, and I said no. And he started screaming at me that he didn't want to see my tatties. That's what he called them. That he was just trying to make art. And I'm really lucky that I'm so hard-headed and defensive, I guess. So I said no, and he ended up taking the pictures without my boobs being in them, which were nothing, to write home about. Like, why do you want to take a picture of these? They're not that exciting. But, in Europe, actually, it was a very different mentality. You would see billboards of women with topless women, and that was normal. Like, the women didn't get paid any extra money to have their breasts show in an advertisement, and beaches you could go topless, and so it was a totally different mentality about nudity. But still, come on, I was just fresh over there and 15. I don't know if he knew how old I was, but that was one of my first experiences, and they just kept kind of snowballing. The guy who I met on the plane, I guess somehow he contacted me and was going to have a party at his place or a get together. And so I went with some friends. And the first 2 weeks that I was in Italy, I drank every single day. I drank wine like it was grape juice because there was no drinking age. And so I was drinking a lot of wine. And I went to this party, and I, of course, was drinking again, and I was starting to feel kind of woozy, so I was like, oh, I need to go lay down, and I went to lay down in the back room, and lucky for me, I could hear my friends leaving, and I was like, oh, like, I got to get out of here, and the guy came in the room, and he just kept trying to get me to stay. I'm 15, and he was probably in his 30s, and luckily, even though I had drank quite a bit, I had enough sense to be like, no way, I'm getting out of here. And I got out of there. So then my agency starts booking me jobs. And I'm pretty sure that the jobs they booked me on were that they set it up. Like they were friends with the photographers in the magazines. They said, hey, we got this new girl. We want you to use her for your shots, because I really wasn't right for the shots they did. Like my first job was with Italian Cosmopolitan, and they put me in lingerie, and I didn't have a lingerie body, and I was so awkward and uncomfortable. And the whole industry is hilarious to me because, you've got 15, 16-year-olds modeling stuff that 30, 40-year-old women are going to wear, and I guess 20-year-old women too, but the pictures weren't great. I had I don't know, I think I had 4 or 5 pages in Italian Cosmopolitan, but I'm pretty sure that the agency set it up so that I could work. And they got me a number of jobs in the beginning, but I really wasn't the right look for there. I hadn't grown into my face. Like I had a kind of chubby face still, and a baby face. And the girls who were really working, in my opinion, kind of looked like heroin addicts. I mean, they were really pale and thin and really strong features, and that wasn't me. But I made some really good friends there. There was 3 guys that I used to hang out with that were really fun, Italian guys, and they showed us around a lot, and that was a really positive up note. There was also the park around the castle there, where all the models would hang out. And there was a lot of male models, and I had this totally negative opinion of male models, and it was extremely hypocritical because I just didn't like guys that were so caught up in how they looked that they wanted to get paid for it. And I was very judgmental and obviously very hypocritical. But I wasn't impressed by good-looking guys, and but it was quite a scene there, and all the models would hang out, and it was fun. And some of us would take trips down to the coast, and the castle was interesting because at night, the transvestite prostitutes would hang out all around the castle and prostitute themselves. So you would find a lot of condoms on the ground as you walk through there in the daytime. It was like a whole scene. There was also a nightclub that all the models would go to, and it was called Amnesty. And no one cared about your age. I was, I was taller than all the Italians I met there, and probably all the models were. And it was funny because when you'd sit on the metro, the Italians that were sitting in front of you, like kids or maybe even like teenagers, I don't remember if adults did it too, but definitely the kids did, where they would be sitting in a chair in front of you, and they would turn all the way around in their seat and have their face right in your face, just staring at you, because you were definitely stood out there. And something that was common there was for men, while you're walking down the street, to catcall you and call you a bella fica, which literally means beautiful cunt. So that was fun. But the nightclub, so before I went to Italy, my dad had this Nazi friend who had a friend that lived in Italy who was also a Nazi, formerly an American. And he gave my dad his information and said, have Sarah call him. Here's his name and number. Have Sarah call him when she gets there, and he'll show her around. They'll have her over to dinner or whatever. And so I had his name written down on a paper, and I forgot about it when I got there. Meanwhile, you know, it was regular thing for us models to go out to this nightclub and dance, and very common for us. There was always older men there trying to buying us drinks, and we worked it. Not in a prostitution sense. I never saw any of my friends or myself ever hook up with these guys, but we definitely took advantage of the fact that they wanted to be around us and got them to buy us drinks. And so one night I'm there with my friends, and this guy is buying us all drinks, and I'm judging him very heavily. I'm like, what a chump, what a fool, what an idiot, you know. But okay, I'll take the drink. And at the end of the night, he offered to give us all a ride home, and as he dropped, and I was being a complete smartass the whole time. I was very defensive towards men. I was used to just constantly being hit on, and in not positive way. I felt like more like preyed on. That's what I felt like. And so, but I was, you know, grateful for the ride home. And when we get back to our apartment, he says, well, Sarah, I doubt you would ever call me, but if you did, here's my name and number. And he hands me this paper. And the name on the paper is the same name of the guy that my dad had told me to hook up with. Well, the same last name. I'm not going to say the name here just because I don't want to slander people, and who knows, maybe they outgrew the Nazi stuff, and I don't want to cause problems for them. Hopefully they did by now. It's been a long time. But anyway, so when he told me the name, I'm going to call him Bobby Big Boy. That's a made-up name. So when I looked at the paper, I was, Bobby Big Boy? And he's like, yeah, why? And I said, well, because I was told to call a guy when I got here named Johnny Big Boy. And he's like, oh, that's my dad. And I was like, what? Oh my God. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I was told that they were going to, you know, and he was going to invite me over for dinner or something. I just never called. And he was like, oh, totally. Yeah, we'll have you over for dinner. So I eventually went over to dinner at this guy's place, and I'm still like halfway numb from my childhood, and, you know, it's all I knew, very programmed, and the Nazi thing just seemed weird to me, but I was just kind of going through the motions. When I look back at my life now compared to who I am now, I was half dead. I was just like sleepwalking through life. But I was strong enough to still stand up for myself an awful lot. So that was good. So I go to their house, and the dad I guess he was, you know, somehow bigly involved in the neo-Nazi movement, and for some reason got pushed out of Hollywood. I don't remember all the details of it, but his son that invited me was a singer, and he actually had written some hit songs he was the actual singer, and then there was someone who fronted the music in Italy, an Italian who looked really good that pretended to sing it, and so he was making his money off of that, and he had some hits. And it was really interesting talking to them, because the son, who, I mean, I'm guessing he was in his 30s, just kept talking about how much he loves sex during the dinner conversation, and I'm like, that's just so strange. Like, I'm 15 or 16, and this is all I'm hearing. And then the guy starts going on and on about how his son, apparently he had a son who is transgender in some way, shape, or form. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but he just kept like making excuses about it, that it was because he was born a blue baby. He was born blue. He didn't have oxygen. It was the mother's fault, something. And he just kept going on and on about it. I'm like, what a weirdo, you know, like, because the whole, the whole Nazi thing is about this perfect race and all this perfectionism, and obviously that wasn't his reality according to his standards, and he was making excuses for it. So it was all quite strange, and I never went back. I think I did keep in touch with his son, but I can't even remember all of that. But yeah, so being in Milan, I heard a lot of stories of fashion models who were working for big time photographers, and the photographer would be jerking off while he's taking the pictures, and that was kind of commonplace. It was just an enormous meat market. That was my experience, and I'm sure other people have their experiences, but the best part of being there, aside from the fact that I felt so, I was free, I was on my own, was my Italian friends that I made there. We had a really good time, and being able to go out to clubs, because I mainly just wanted to dance, and the dancing, it was just really fun to just go out and dance all night. I eventually stopped drinking so much, but I do remember a time when I was at a party and I was upset for some reason, and I was drinking a lot, and I left the party and I just walked through the entire town of Milano in the middle of the night, drunk, and ended up at, oh, I have to pause.